In this video, I'm making a new drive wheel for my 2x72 belt grinder. This is a 5-inch wheel and will give me a higher belt speed. First thing I did was mark out the circles on a piece of 1/2-inch MDF. Now I'm going to take it over to the drill press and drill all the holes. Drilling when it's full size like this makes it easier to hold onto. Now I can cut out the circles with the bandsaw, but this can be done with a jigsaw as well. Now I'm going to bring it over to the disc sander where I've got a special jig that I made up for making perfect circles. The details on this are on my website. The link is in the description. The way this works is there's a movable part that goes in and out. There's a pin that I cut from a piece of shaft that fits exactly in the holes in each disc. And there's a piece of wood clamped on the bottom to act as a stop. And it stops the piece that moves in and out so I get circles that are exactly the same size. All I need to do is sand each one in the jig, and I have 5 that are exactly the same size and perfectly round. I've got the 5 discs cut out and shaped perfectly round. Now I'm getting ready to glue them together. I'm going to use a piece of shaft. This is 5/8" cold roll steel. It's the same stuff that I use on the machine, and I'm going to use that as a guide to line up each disc. First thing I'm going to do is get some glue on the disc all the way around. Not a lot, doesn't need to be a lot. Then I'm going to take the shaft and slip that in the hole and take the next disc, make sure it's nice and clean, and slip it on. I'm going to rotate it around like this just to make sure that the glue is spread fairly well. Then I'm going to spread more glue all the way around and get the next disc and do the same. When I've got all the discs glued in place, I'm just going to press it down firmly to make sure that the glue spreads out evenly. Then I'm going to take my square and I'm going to check to make sure that the shaft is square to the disc and just make any adjustment that I need to right now. Both directions. Get the square in there and check it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for about 5 or 10 minutes until that glue sets up enough. Then I can get some clamps on there, light pressure. You don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on, it doesn't need it, just to hold it together until the glue fully dries. So I gave the glue on the wheel about an hour to dry, and now it's ready to put on the shaft. I'm just going to take it out of the clamps here and check it over to make sure it's reasonably smooth. You can put it back on the jig now, again if it's not, although it really should be because it should be lined up perfectly. But you can put it back in the jig and give it a little bit of a tune-up. It really shouldn't be necessary. Once you put it on the shaft, after it's fixed in place, you'll want to true it up again a little bit. So I'm going to now take the old wheel off and put this one on. So as we saw in the assembly video, I put this on the shaft and then I drove the screw, and the screw is driven into a kind of a keyway cut in the shaft. And I'm going to do the same with the new one, but first I'm going to glue the wheel right onto the shaft with epoxy. The shaft is pretty clean, but I'm just going to take some coarse sandpaper and rough it up a bit. Now I've got a small amount of epoxy mixed up here. It doesn't take a lot. What I'm looking to do is just to fix the wheel on the shaft before I put the screw in that was going to lock it onto the shaft. This will make the wheel run truer to begin with. Put that on and spin it so that the epoxy is well distributed. The epoxy has had a few hours to dry. I'm just going to quickly turn the machine on and see how it spins. And it looks pretty good just as it is. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a 1/8" drill bit and drill in for the screw that keys the wheel onto the shaft. I've just got to drill out the hardened epoxy so that I can drive the screw in easily. I've added a tool rest to the side of the machine to true up the wheel again, and I'm just going to use a 1/2-inch chisel to do that. Then I can put a belt on and give it a try.